unfold, where you'd skin your knees when you'd see your first rainbow. What if you couldn't choose when you'd say or do? There'd be no surprises or waiting for stanzas if you already knew. What if you were born knowing you'd keep falling in love, whose lips you'd first kiss when you'd wish for the love that you'd missed? What if it was all planned when you said your I do's? Be no hesitating, could simply stop dating if you already knew. What if you were born knowing what every tomorrow would bring, where you'd sit and cry when you'd say your last goodbyes? What if you could grow old knowing who'd be there with you? There'd be no denying that day you were dying if you already knew. What if you already knew?
Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Quality of Life show with Nancy Reed and Lisa Smith, the mother-daughter travel team and publishers of the two digital interactive magazines, Big Blend Radio and TV Magazine and Parks and Travel Magazine. You can find them both at bigblendmagazines.com. Now, you just heard the song, If You Already Knew. It's by San Francisco Bay Area award-winning folk pop artist and playwright Lisa Sniderman. We call her Aoede, and she calls herself Aoede. In fact, go to her website. It's aoedemuse.com. That's AOEDE muse.com. And we're really excited to have her back on Big Blend Radio today. We've talked with her over the years. Actually, I do believe it was back in 2012 when she came on with her album Skeletons. You know, she came on and we talked about Skeletons of the Muse, and we've had a relationship ever since. Today, she's joining us not just to talk about her music, but her brand new memoir. It's called A Light in the Darkness, Transcending Chronic Illness Through the Power of Art and Attitude. I like that, art and attitude.
Me too.
I like anything to do with transcending, too. I like that.
You have to have attitude.
Yes, you do. You do. The book is published by Crimson Cloak Publishing, and actually published and was released on September 21st, 2018 for Myositis Awareness Day. Now, Lisa's been honored with over 50 awards for songwriting, audiobooks, stage plays, all since 2012, all while suffering from a rare autoimmune disease called dermatomyositis.com. Dermatomyositis, and she's going to teach me how to say this properly. I've been practicing, but it went out the window. But it's a progressive muscle weakness disease. It's very debilitating. I mean, you can't move, and she's going to tell us about her journey through this disease and, overcoming it with the power of art and attitude. Welcome back, Lisa. How are you?
Thank you so much. What a great introduction. I don't even need to talk now. You've just described everything.
No, but did I get it right? I got the giggles over the name. I know it's not a fun name, not a fun thing to, suddenly wake up to one morning, but it's dermatomyositis, right?
You are so close. I'm going to give you kudos for even trying it. It's dermatomyositis.
Dermato.
Yeah.
See, I have to think tomato.
Yep. Tomatomyositis.
Dermatomyositis. Yeah, I mean, this is reading your memoirs. Actually, really, I remember talking about it with you before on some shows, and just communicating over the years with you, and waking up one day thinking, oh, just go to the doctor and I have a rash, little whatever, and then all of a sudden your life completely changed.
Exactly. So picture yourself, it's 6 weeks before you're getting married. You're about to go on tour to promote your first album, and you're working full time. And then imagine you get a skin rash and you get an appointment for the dermatologist, and you're thinking that he's just going to give you some topical cream. And instead he tells you you have a rare unpronounceable disease like dermatomyositis and refers you to a rheumatologist. And you're 36. So that kind of sets the stage of where I was in my life when this was happening. And now, just fast forward, I've been living with what I call a rare chronic illness for more than 10 years. And as you note, it's a progressive muscle weakness disease. And really what my story is persevering right through this darkness and through this adversity, but doing it by obsessively turning to creativity to express and as a healing path. That's one part of the story. And then the other part of the story is the realization that my life's purpose is that I can take something that I've got from living with these 10 years, and it's a gift. And the gift is to be able to share with others, because I've found when I start sharing, other people open up and share their stories. So part of my life is to also become what I'm calling, a light in the darkness, or a muse, and helping give inspiration and support and connection and encouragement to others who might be going through something like a transformation, particularly illness or disability or unexpected life events. So that's kind of setting the stage for why I wrote the memoir, is trying to say, okay, I'm learning that by giving, I have to be able to share my story. And one way I can do that is to write my memoir and, give it to people in that way.
I love that. I know that you've been a voice for those, throughout the years, for kids, for others of all ages, to still keep going. I know, Nancy, you were going to say something there?
Well, I was just wondering, after all these years now, have they ever got together and figured out where this illness came from or how it comes about?
Yeah, there are so many differing opinions on, first I should say it's an autoimmune disease. So anybody familiar with autoimmune diseases might understand that it's hard to pinpoint cause. There's, in this case, for dermatomyositis, there are different causes that are suspected, anything from a virus, that somebody might have gotten, even a vaccination, environmental exposure. There's so many different things that you could look back to. And of course, for yourself, whenever something's going on that changes your world, right, you try to look at all of the triggers, and my triggers at the time were stress, because I was doing, about to get married and working and about to go on tour. I also had some environmental exposures, so when I look back at it, I can always, try to figure out why. But to me, I've stopped asking why. And instead, I focus on what can I learn and what can I teach. That's more valuable to me, for dealing with something like that. Yeah.
It's interesting going through your, memoir, when you talk about, you start to really have to come face to face with it. You can't just close your eyes and ignore it. And at one point that you ended up in care for 3 weeks. You weren't home for 3 weeks, going through so much because you cannot ignore it. You have to face it and then kind of figure out a plan. And you have a whole chapter devoted to redefining success, which I think it's so, you have to really kind of sit down and look at your life and move forward. And we all do that in some way, or should be. But when it comes down to suddenly your life changes and it has to do with a chronic illness and it affects your mobility and getting brain fog, like you talk about, and being so tired. I don't like the brain fog and tired part. I don't like any parts of that. Like what you're describing, that I'm like, dude, I don't want to go through that. And just knowing, just even if I get the flu, I'm like, oh man, this sucks. I don't know what to do with myself. Now I'll just read your memoir again. Myself.
No,
Don't ever whine about having the flu. God.
No, you mentioned so many different things that I touched on, and I want to touch on success first, because success to me has been a moving target. And that's because when I was healthier, for example, if I'm working, success might be, how well I can affect change, how well I'm doing what it is that I think my passion and my purpose are, or even getting a paycheck. You know what I mean? Those were all just moments of success. In the musical world, moments of success came from anything from completing a song, completing an album, getting industry recognition, getting awards, right? So those are all different measures of success. When I was in the hospital and getting out of the hospital, success was I can sit up. I can stand. I can learn to, re-sing and play my guitar again. And in fact, one of the stories that I share in the memoir is that I was in rehab, and one of the things I most wanted to do was sing and play, but I had no core strength. I had no ability to sing, to sit. But the physical therapy and occupational therapy person brought in his kids, half or a 3/4 size guitar, and I was able to hold it and just sing the words, and even that I sang something that was my anthem through the storm called What You Got, and even that was enough to share that and tell me that I was going to be okay. So success, it really, it is such a moving target. The other thing is as an artist, that is sort of, I paved my own path. I'm not really, once I dealt with the fact that I'm not going to have the energy and stamina to go tour and to release albums and do it in a more traditional way, like other singer-songwriters might, I decided that, I have to have success on my own terms. It's not about, having a map to the top and realizing I've gotten there. It's like, I'm pioneering. So I'm okay with, success being a little bit different for me.
I think it is for everybody in general. Like when you look at success, everyone has a different goal. Everybody's a different person. Everybody has a different struggle, and I think we all get, dealt that hand, and it's about how we choose. Like you're saying, am I going to sit and look backwards, or am I going to look forwards? Am I going to keep going forward? And what are the important parts when it comes to having the right people around you? Because isn't there a tendency when you go through these kinds of things that, you've got this illness, you could end up saying, I'm just going to stay in bed and I don't really want to be around people, where you could actually kind of disengage from society, yet at the same time you need to have society, you need to have people around you. You talk about cheerleaders and having positive mentors in your life, so it seemed that you didn't let yourself say, okay, I'm staying in bed.
Absolutely. That's, one of the biggest things in terms of life lessons that I share is really you need to find people. You don't do this alone. You learn to receive and, nurture relationships. You really find, your people and find that support. So for me personally, it was understanding, even when I was at my darkest days in the hospital, I had my husband, I had my mom, I had, friends and family. And I really allowed that love and support to just embrace me. Because at that point, you're really at a place of surrender. And all you know is that you can just feel. You feel their support. You feel that. Then when I was starting, to improve, it's also being honest about where you are and what you might need, because then your friends and family can help give that to you. So here's an example of my producer. when I wanted to record my musical, he knew that I wasn't going to be able to travel to Southern California and be in studios and, have that kind of energy. So he came to me in San Francisco area, and we did it at my house, so that I could rest in between.
Nice.
Friends would come over, and they know that I'm not very good for being out for long periods of time. So they'll come over and they'll offer to help, even prep or clean up or, so it's almost like it's accommodation and understanding that this isn't selfish, it's self-love. And I think that's also important to share, is that you learn, because at some points you might feel very dependent, especially, if you're dealing with and struggling with a new baseline, where you've been able to have independence. And that was my case. I'd been so independent. And then all of a sudden, everything has changed. I wasn't able to walk. I needed people to make shakes for me, to drive, to pick all my things up, like, medicine and groceries, and to do all of the housework, you know what I mean? And so all of that was like, wow, how can I still feel needed, you know what I mean, and valued and of worth?
Yeah.
It's easy for those things to go through your head, is that, you're just dependent. So, I'd say that there's a lot in allowing people to help, and also finding, the people that are going to lift you, and that you can in return lift, right? You want to be around people who are positive. And that's not to say, I'm not trying to say that everything always has to be rosy, and don't acknowledge or express your feelings. But for me, it's don't dwell in them. It's not that you never have hard days or dark days. I mean, you've read my memoir. You've seen some of the things I talk about, how, it's 156 doctor appointments and the toll everything takes, by doing these activities that I love. It's the stuff people don't see, because I was very close.
You didn't even tell people.
Right. I mean, even when I talk to
your
you.
fans didn't even know. Like, they're listening to your music.
That's kind of true. You know what I mean? Even talking to you in the past, we may have said something, but I've never said, this is like what it's like to deal with the day-to-day struggles. Instead, I turned to Aoede, which is my persona, my artist persona. And by doing that, I was able to focus on light and creativity. And even, here's something that's really wild that I didn't even realize until writing the memoir. And that is, when I was writing my musical for What Are Dreams Made Of, my main theme was light and darkness. And my protagonist was dealing with getting into a place where she keeps going deeper and deeper into the dark. Well, I didn't even realize that was a way that I could express my own journey, until I was writing this memoir and said, oh my gosh, it wasn't just a creative outlet. I was actually, portraying in these characters in order to deal with and process what I was going through, my own darkness.
I think there's an expression, I'm trying to think of the exact words and who said it, but there's something about acceptance with grace. And the fact that once you learn to accept something with grace, which is different than accepting with anger, acceptance with grace leads you to make a new path, where if you're not able to do that for a while, you're stuck on that anger, pity, you get cranky and people don't want to be around you, and you're striking out, and until you finally be able to come to acceptance with grace, and then you can move forward. There's something real about that, I think.
Absolutely. I definitely resonate. For me, it's awaken and greet each day with total love, gratitude, and positive attitude. So for me, the grace is also gratitude. And my husband, we talked a little bit about, you're saying cheerleaders. So he is still my biggest cheerleader. And I think that it made all the difference. And he's even shared that with me about my attitude. Because if I was cranky, and I'm not saying deny your feelings. I'm not saying don't express what you're going through, because it's going to be hard. Okay. But I am saying that when when others are trying to help you or be there for you, acknowledge that, that is something that they're doing out of their heart, and make it so that they want to give to you, right? So if you are just naturally grateful and appreciative, it makes it, much nicer for somebody who is your partner.
I think that's a really important thing. I know Nancy and I have been caregivers, and to a really angry human being. And, part of when someone's really not well, there's the other way people are coping that are family and loved ones, their way of coping and dealing with it too, because it affects them, what they're feeling. They're upset. They're worried. Their way of coping is to help. That's all part of it, and so then you create this new relationship. This bonds get stronger. They always say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. In some ways, I really believe that. And I remember, being a caregiver and not understanding what was going on, and having someone just, no matter, it's like, here's some food and it gets thrown in your face. Like, really, that's keeping it mildly. And it was just thing so much worse, and so basically everyone's blood pressure is going up. No one's getting happier or healthier. It's just not the environment to move forward. And I think it's exciting to recreate your goals, recreate visions, or create them and continue with them, but always take that extra path. And so, like we were saying, everyone has a different kind of struggle, and I think it's interesting how you, number one, are sharing your story so people know that you can get up. You can still do something. There's always some kind of way. And I think people forget sometimes, especially in the beginning stage. And then there's that stage where you're all, happy. Then it's like, okay, no, I'm going to rage again on this stuff. And so you have to have that you have to keep going, because it's like being on a diet. Like suddenly, okay, I'm being really good. And then one day you're like, no, I'm eating my chocolate now. That's it. But to have that strength to keep going.
It's definitely about that keep going. And for me, it's also, how do I keep my dreams alive? Right? So it's when you're going through something, a life event, or especially when it's in the new stages of that transformation, it's, what am I capable of? What can I continue to do? And if I can't, what else might I be able to do so I can keep pursuing my dreams? And, I have a story. For example, I did a writing workshop for the Myositis Association's conference last September. And we were doing just a session on keeping dreams alive. And afterwards, people were sharing stories. And one of them was a person who used to be a pilot, and then ended up having the same disease as I did, and wasn't able to do this anymore. But what he discovered along the way is that he still had that passion, and he later decided to be a flight simulator instructor, so that he could still do his dream, but in a totally different way, because, it's not him in the air, but now he's able to still be in the field that he loves and still do something, so I share that to say that even for myself, I wasn't going to be a touring singer-songwriter and either opening for, folks like Taylor Swift one day, it's not my dream. It became a different dream. And I said, well, how do I keep that songwriter dream alive? And it shifted. And without that shift, maybe I wouldn't have discovered, musical theater. Maybe I wouldn't have discovered writing this memoir, or my next endeavor, which is collaborating with more than 50 artists who are also using creativity to help heal.
I love this. I want to talk about that, because it's going to be a special event. But I wanted to say, it was in the very beginning of your book, I believe. You quoted, and you have so many good quotes throughout the book. But the one is an African proverb. Of course, we love Africa, and we love their proverbs. That they have a way of putting things in such a beautifully straight up front kind of, life lessons. And this one is, when the music changes, so does the dance. And I'm like, that is sitting with me forever. So cool. That is, I think, probably now it's Joan Baez has a quote: the antidote to despair is action, or action is the antidote to despair. It's just my favorite on earth. But now I think I have a rival here. When the music changes, so does the dance. And I think you've definitely exemplified that. But one of the things that was interesting is, your mind shift and, hey, I'm going to do this instead. I'm going to achieve a different kind of dream, even though it's still similar, right? It's still that same path. You really took charge of your life and did courses, and it wasn't, you just didn't go, wishful thinking kind of thing. You really applied yourself to make it happen.
Yeah, and believe it or not, from bed. I mean, half of the stuff I talk about, that's the wild thing. When I look back at it, it's like, how in the world did I even manage to do, so many of these things? And I think part of it is, one, when you're doing something that you're passionate about, it's like time doesn't exist. You know the word flow? That's how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the muse is flowing. And when those moments are happening, nothing else exists. And it's the way I say it, it's not that the illness disappears, but you're so focused and caught up in something that's not ego and not your body, that allows. And for me, that was creativity. And so I think that that's part of it, right? It's just allowing yourself to be in flow, and continue.
And and you do that flow. Like, you always have these positive messages on social media, on Facebook and Twitter, like these points of the day, the muse of the day kind of message.
Yes.
And it's like, it's a reminder. And I love that, because there's so much darkness in social media, and here pops Aoede. Hello, you gotta be happy today. Keep going. There's something beautiful out there, and it's like, okay, keep going. So it's really amazing. So you get to be the light of social media.
I appreciate it, but I will say that this, experience in writing the memoir and being able to share with other artists who are also creating to heal is also this opportunity to get real and honest, right? Because sharing all of the positive is, what I'm about. That's what I focus on, and that's where I put my energy, because I have limited energy. But I'm also acknowledging that, it is hard. You know what I mean? And that there is a lot of darkness involved. There's, you know what I mean? And that I need to at least acknowledge it in some fashion. And so by sharing my story and collaborating with other artists who are now sharing their stories, this is the next step in my path, and I didn't know, I wouldn't have known that this is a step unless I had written that, memoir first. That was the first. So this, I want to explain a little bit about it.
Because this is exciting, because this is going to be a whole event, everybody, December 16th in Redwood City, California. But this is going to be something we can watch, right?
Yes, this will be online. So what I decided is that when thinking about how I wanted to launch the book, really, it was, I didn't want to have just a book reading, at Borders or something like that. I really wanted this collaboration with other artists who were creating to heal. So I put kind of a feeler out and said, I'm looking for passionate artists, musicians, and authors who might want to participate. And I was just overwhelmed by the interest. So what I decided is, I didn't just want this to be a geographic event in time. It also needs to be something that everybody, especially if you're dealing with illness and can't come to an event, right, that can access. So I decided I would create videos for people who wanted to share their stories in that way. And at this point, I'm interviewing about 40 artists who are all using creativity to help heal. And I'm doing conversations with them. And I'm going to be sharing that the week leading up to the live event in December online. And then we're also going to have the live performance for people who want to either be, who are in California or want to come to California and share their story in that way. So that's kind of, a little information about the event. But it's also become a community. There's a Facebook group, and, people are sharing and connecting. And so it's really a neat thing. And I didn't realize, the need for people to have an outlet. So here's an example. I have, a friend and colleague is dealing with cancer, and he ended up writing a musical to process this. And he is not a theater person. It's just that form came to him in order to process dealing with cancer. So he wrote a book on, how he wrote a musical to deal with cancer. And, that's one example, right? And so it made me realize that these people were like, it's finding the other unicorns. Because
I love this.
he didn't know, right? He doesn't know where to look for others like him who might be doing something similar.
So Lisa, tell us about this group and what the name of the group is, and can anybody join it even if they're not part of the event in December?
Yes, so thank you for asking. It's called Lights in the Darkness, Creating to Heal. And it's intended primarily for artists, musicians, and authors who are using creativity to heal. But there's nothing that says that somebody can't join the Facebook group. It's public. And definitely you'll be able to keep tabs on the event and other artists, connect with artists who are creating to heal. So that's great.
Wonderful, wonderful. I know that, I think one of our musician friends who's been on our show a couple times, I think he may have connected with you, Brian, up in Denver, Colorado. His band is called Borgo, and he creates music on his computer. He's put out an album, the band, and I don't know if you guys have connected yet, but I know that he was interested in what you're doing. So hopefully you guys met up. I don't know yet.
Yes, we are connecting. He is on my schedule to review in October.
Awesome.
So I'm sorry, to interview. I said review. Interview in October. And I've been able to connect with him because of you guys. So yeah, that was a great connection. And it's neat that he's part of this group now.
He's awesome. His music is fantastic. We love it. And I just, again, he talks about, going through it of everybody has a different struggle. Like, just when he said that, I was like, oh, you can't judge anybody's struggle because everybody's struggle is different according to them, who they are. And I was like, wow, that's so powerful when you think about that. Because it could be, it could be a financial struggle. It could be that there's, shootings in the street where you live. It could be everybody has something, I think, that they have to work through. And I think the fact that you're using creativity, that's inspiring. Creativity is inspiring, and it just really sends a message out, because I also believe people who may not have been creative could turn to creativity, like you were saying at the end.
Yeah, it doesn't have to. And what I say in the book is just because I'm a singer-songwriter and musicals and do, these videos or films, it's not that trying to say that's a way of processing. It's saying that this is just my journey, but that you have to respect whatever it is. It's igniting the passion inside you. So for some people, it could be poetry. It could be, going to museums and taking in art in that way. It could be listening to music. It could be appreciating. It could be, what I mean? Anything, the way I look at it is anything that I do is art. It just takes different forms. And so really, being creative is mostly just tapping into what brings you joy and what sparks you.
Agreed. I wanted to talk about the two songs we were playing today. The first one we started the segment with is If You Already Knew. So tell us about that song, because you also performed that live.
Yes. So If You Already Knew, the reason I was sharing that is because another story, I was in the hospital, and it was the first time I was getting a really scary treatment. And since it was the first time, it was extremely anxiety promoting and fearful. And for whatever reason, I really didn't have a lot of coping. I was trying to turn to meditation and trying to hold my husband's hand, and I just kept getting colder, and I was having to deal with pre-meds from the IV. I just wasn't in a very comfortable space. And I did the only thing that I could do, which was I started to sing. And that is the song that started coming out, is If You Already Knew. I started singing the verse to a song that I had recently written. And it really just, it calmed me. It let me know that I was going to be grounded, right? I was in this hospital. I wasn't going anywhere. And that's why I wanted to share it, because there's a realization that music is healing, in so many different senses. But that was a physical healing, that I allowed myself and my own voice to help heal. And I remember the experience where nurses, came in and were, really curious, and patients were, trying to figure out what was happening in a positive way.
And then the next song we're going to play, Perfect Day. Who has a perfect day?
Yeah, really.
So this one is a really neat story, which is a fan who has a debilitating muscle disease confided in me in 2011 a little bit about his story, and he found my music online, and I learned that this fan was unable to get out of the house, was on a respirator, and really his means of joy were doing things from bed. He actually was a webmaster for an orchestra, as well as he enjoyed ship spotting, which he did with the help of his wife, who would go take pictures of ships and bring them back. And so his story sparked my song Perfect Day. And I imagined the world through his lens. But what was really interesting, and I had a realization after it, which was this was the first time I allowed myself in song to acknowledge my own limitations, and and acknowledge where I was. So that's why I wanted to share that, because it really is a piece of my journey too.
Now, before you go and we play Perfect Day, if you were going to have a tea party, because I know you like tea parties, and you're going to have a tea party and you're going to invite 3 people to sit down and have tea and have a really good discussion, who would these 3 people be? They could be alive, they could be passed on, they could be fictional. Who would those 3 people be that you want to sit and because I know you having somebody, a positive mentor, you talk about that, and also just getting, get that insight. It could be musicians. You could play music with them if you want. You can do whatever you want. It's your tea party. Who would it be? And what type of tea are you serving? That's important.
Okay. Yeah, the tea is going to be chocolate chai, because why not? It's enjoyable, and it is kind of decadent. Yeah. So you can get to the tea first. Oh gosh, the people. Put me on the spot.
I know. We never tell anybody that we're going to do this kind of thing. In fact, we've never had a tea party this way. This is the first tea party question.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Let's think.
I want some chai now.
Maya Angelou.
I knew that. That is so funny, because as soon as I started to say that, I saw Maya Angelou.
I don't know that. Yeah, Maya
That's wild.
Yeah. My grandmother, because I want her there. Because she had so much wisdom, and she was a big role model for me. And gosh, let's go with that. Let's go with Amberlynn Wu, who is my other role model. Yeah. So she is the reason to me that be a light is one of my purposes. So I think having her there is important. Her story is that she dealt with very debilitating CFS for more than 15 years. And she passed away at an early age of 39. And so that was a really hard thing, because when your muse goes away, it is a little bit daunting for you. You don't expect your muse to die, right. And so that was like, wow. And it was almost like a reminder that I need to carry on the torch, literally and figuratively. So yeah, those are my 3.
Wow. Good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I like that. Everybody, again, the memoir by Lisa Sniderman is A Light in the Darkness, Transcending Chronic Illness Through the Power of Art and Attitude. Again, it was published by Crimson Cloak Publishing. You can keep up with Lisa. Go to aodemuse.com. That's AOEDE, aodemuse.com. Every time she comes on a show, I have to pronounce some things. She's had to teach me Aoede over the years. And now... Now I know. Let me try again. Dermatomyositis.
That was very close. Dermatomyositis.
Dermatomyositis.
I have a brand new website, alightinthedarkness.info, and that's everything you need to know about the book and its history and videos and all kinds of fun things to look at.
So the lightinthedarkness.info, everybody. A light in the darkness.info. A light lightsinthedarkness.info. And also, best place to get the book, Amazon, those kind of places?
Yes, right now, yes, yes, Amazon, my website, and Crimson Cloak, and other retailers.
Okay, so everybody, lightsinthedarkness.info, Amazon, Crimson Cloak, and other places you can go get that. And we want to give a shout out and thank you to our sponsor today, Find Something Awesome. It's an awesome book series by Matt Scott that teaches kids early in life the wisdom and life lessons adults get from self-help books. How novel is that? Check it out. Go to findsomethingawesome.com. Of course, you can get on Amazon as well. And don't forget, keep up with us here on Big Blend Radio. Just go to bigblendradio.com. You'll see the schedule of shows coming up, and also all the different links to all the different outlets where you can listen as shows go live here on Blog Talk Radio, or listen on demand from places like iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, Player.fm, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all those good places. There it is. Here it is. Perfect day. Thank you so much for joining us, Lisa, and thank you so much for writing the book.
Thank you for having me. It was really nice to be here.
I feel so alive. I feel so alive. Can you see? Can you see me? Do you know? Do you know what I would do? I would do with just one perfect day. I would shed my skin, this thin veneer. It keeps me here, it keeps me wanting more than this. I feel so alive. I feel so alive. Do you see me? Can you paint a picture for me? Picture perfect blue sky, sunny day. Paint the trees, apple cream.